All right, all right, all right. Welcome back to the podcast. Today on my podcast is a man known as the Fly Lawyer, but his name is Jackie Patterson. He not only looks fly, but he plays a part in his profession. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, my guy. It's such a pleasure to be here with you this evening, and I'm not just Fly. The Fly Lawyer is actually my legal name. So when I go to the judges will say the defendant is represented by the Fly Lawyer. My full name is Jackie the Fly Lawyer Patterson, but I only go by my middle name.
All right, all right, all right. So when you say you go by your middle name, tell them what the middle name is. Is it the Fly or is it the
No,
Fly
the
Lawyer?
Fly Lawyer, the
All
Fly
right,
Lawyer.
all right.
Absolutely.
Just want to nip that in the bud and get that out the way. All right, so take me back. Take me back. What got you into law?
Well, I think first of all, after high school, I spent 3 years in the Army as an Army paratrooper. And since about the seventh grade, I always knew what I wanted to do in life. I always knew I wanted to be a police officer, police chief, judge, prosecutor, defense attorney. So in order to be an Atlanta police officer, you have to be 20 years old. So I joined the Army from 17 to 20. And then when I became a police officer, seeing lawyers in court, seeing judges in court as a police officer. Then I got my undergrad and my master's while I was on the police department. And then I left and went to law school from there. So it's always been in my blood.
All right, so explain to me, is that like a family thing or is it something that you chose to do specifically?
It- It's something I chose to do. I'm in my immediate family. I am the only person that's ever gone to college in my immediate family.
Wow. So you're the only one. Okay, so what about military? Were you the only one that chose the military as well?
That is correct.
Wow.
Mhm.
So no, so the first to be part of the military and the first to go into the field of law.
Absolutely.
My man, so I gotta salute you on that one. That's
Thank you,
awesome
my
to
God.
know and hear.
I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. So then you go off into the police academy and you become a police officer.
That's correct. I was with Atlanta Police for a little over 6 years. And while I was there, I was a patrolman. I
Hmm.
patrolled Zone 4 and Zone 5. I was a beat cop. And I was patrolling at night and then went to college during the day. And so once I got my undergrad and my master's, I then left and went to Thurgood Marshall Law School at Texas Southern University, which is a HBCU, because I always wanted to make sure that I got that experience because as a police officer, since I worked full time, I had to go to college part-time. So once I graduated from grad school, I decided I needed to focus full-time on law school. So I left the police department altogether and traveled to Houston, Texas for Thurgood Marshall School of Law.
Okay. Now explain take me through that process because growing up for you, were there a lot of police officers in Atlanta that were black?
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Okay.
Atlanta has been historically black since, if I had to guess, since the 1970s, because that's when we started getting our first black mayor, and we've had nothing but black mayors since that time. So yeah, so anything that you want to do in Atlanta, there's an African American or a black person that has already done it.
All right. So the switch going from the being a police officer to switching over to going to law school for a time at Thurgood Marshall in Texas, was the environment, did the environment change for you?
Oh, absolutely. Even though I went to an all-black high school here in Atlanta, once I joined the Army, let me just be very candid. That was the first time I've had close contact with whites, because when you're from Atlanta and you grew up in Southwest Atlanta, everything you do is on the South Side. Your elementary school, your nursery, your middle school, your high school. So when I joined the Army, that was my first cultural experience of being around people other than my own race. And so once I joined the Army, that's when things, got a little bit more diverse. But once I got to law school, my class was about 75% African American. Then we had Mexicans, whites, and things like that.
Okay, so take me back to that then. Take me back to the Army. Was it a culture shock for you when you finally realized that there were more people than just yourself involved in the Army?
Now, don't laugh at me, but this is a true story. I mean, I've never told anybody this. Let me tell you, growing up in the projects, we didn't have showers. I mean, we had bathtubs.
Okay.
I grew up in John J. Egan homes in Southwest Atlanta. So I took a bath every day. When I got into the Army, there's no such thing as taking a bath. You had to take a shower. So I was not used to that water hitting me in the chest. So here I was taking deep breaths, panicking every time that shower would hit me in the chest. So it took me a good month or two to get used to taking a shower. But that's
Wow.
exactly what happened because I
Wow.
didn't take showers. I grew up being in a bathtub.
I forgot where I was. I think I may have been on the south side of Chicago or somewhere down south. I can't remember where, and I'm gonna get it wrong because it's been a while, and I have to re-jog my memory. But wherever I went, they weren't used to taking showers themselves, and it was like, we ran your bath water for you. I was like, I don't bath water. That's not. We don't do bath water. They said, what do you mean you don't do bath water? We shower where I'm from. You all run the water to clean up. Yes, because we don't want to sit in the same water that we're trying to clean off and get away from.
Well, that's the way I grew up. So when I joined the army, it was a true shock having to take a shower. I mean, I was as if I was drowning the way it was hitting my chest. And and then obviously my roommate was a white guy, so that was all new for me. And I was the first black person he had been around. So he was from Jacksonville, Florida, and so we had our ups and downs. And eventually, I had to get a different roommate because it was just that kind of situation.
Now, while you were in the military, did you ever think about going up for higher ranking positions, or would you just focus on being, would you say paramilitary?
Yep, I was a paratrooper in the
Paratroop,
82nd
I'm sorry.
Cavalry Division. But that's a great question because believe it or not, when I was initially stationed in Fort Hood, Texas, and then when I wanted to become a paratrooper, they transfer you to Fort Benning, Georgia for paratrooper school, and then you go on to Fort Bragg, the 82nd Airborne Division for your permanent station. But while I was there, um, I decided I wanted to be an officer in the military instead of a non-commissioned officer.
Okay.
And unfortunately, my first sergeant, let me back up a minute. It was actually in Fort Hood where I wanted to go to be a officer. And my first sergeant was from Alabama. And my number one job, believe it or not, every day in Fort Hood was for me to make his coffee, and that was my number one job. That's the way back in 1978, my first sergeant was I was truly that kind of guy. So
Yeah.
I would get up at 6:30 in the morning, go make his coffee, and then come back and get in my bed in my barracks. So once I applied, I wanted to go to West Point. I wanted to be a West Point military officer.
Hmm.
I pulled out my paperwork, it took months to do that. And lo and behold, I turned it in to my first sergeant. A few months later, he said, "Oh, PFC Patterson, I missed your deadline. Can you believe that?" So I'm confident that that was intentional. So at that point, I knew I had to leave Fort Hood, and that's when I applied to be a U.S. Army paratrooper, and that's when I got shipped out to Fort Benning and then Fort Bragg, North Carolina, for my permanent station. But things happen. Yeah,
Ooh.
so that's what happened in Fort Hood.
Go ahead, keep talking. If you got to keep talking, I'm just a
And
little steam. I'm steaming up for you myself.
yeah, so when I got to Fort Bragg in North Carolina, I was my first sergeant's driver, and he
Mm.
was African American. I was like a son to him. So under him, I made sergeant and E5, which is a sergeant, and I was a telecommunications operator. Back in those days, they called them rat rigs, where you're sending telecommunications from one uh, Jeep to another to communicate in terms of your whereabouts and things like that. And so I stayed there for my whole 2.5 years after that. And that's when I got out and I joined the Atlanta Police Department. But I applied for the police department while I was in the Army because if I had not gotten accepted on the police department, I was probably going to make the Army a career. But I got accepted while I was still in the Army. So I was able to get two paychecks. I was still getting paid from the Army and being a recruit in the Atlanta Police Department at the same time because I turned in all my vacation days in the Army and got out early.
Awesome. Wow. So how long was your career in the Army then?
Oh, 3 years. I had back then it was a 3 year tour.
So just a 3 year. So
Yeah,
you
my
didn't have to
goal.
work. You didn't have to worry about getting shipped off to going into war or anything like that.
No, when I was in from 1978 to 19 late early 81, there was really no wars going on. So I came home
Correct.
every weekend. I came home every Friday and went back every Sunday if I wasn't actually training because it was only a 6 hour drive.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So you're in. Oh man, I'm a little hot about that, but I know what you. I don't know what you had to really go through, but I understand the frustration of someone treating me like that. and having to deal with that and go through that. Can you walk me through the process of what that felt like for you to be able to keep your emotions in check and be intelligent enough to process that and still focus on a goal in your journey?
Absolutely. Once he told me that he missed my deadline, clearly I was devastated. But I said, well, you have to turn a negative into a positive. So I said, the way you turn it into a positive is to get out of this environment. And once you apply to be a paratrooper, back in those days, that took priority because everybody needed paratroopers at Fort Bragg. So once you applied, your first sergeant couldn't stop you. So that's how I was able to get out of there.
Gotcha. Gotcha. All right. So we get from the military, go from being a cop to realizing, all right, the major goal now is to go and become a lawyer. We leave Atlanta, your home.
Mhm.
Did you leave behind just family? Did you leave behind kids, or just was it just family?
No, I was 28 years old, not married, no kids, so I had nothing holding me from going to Texas Southern.
Nothing holding you back. Boom. Single man, single as a dollar bill. I'm fly early on, been fly most of my life. That's why I was in the paramilitary. I was gonna be a paratrooper because I was just fly. You know what I mean? Boom. We
Absolutely.
get we get over to Texas. Now we're doing the work to become a lawyer. All right.
Absolutely. Yes,
That they'll go ahead, go ahead.
I was the president of my first year law class. I've always been the
Wow.
type that I just believe somebody has to take charge and take the lead. And
Hmm.
so I was the president of my first year class. My class started out with about 275 students, my class, and we ended up with about 110 at graduation because, some failed, some quit, things like that. But when I went to law school, I knew that I was going to make it because the last thing I wanted to do was come back to Atlanta and have to rejoin the Atlanta Police Department and be embarrassed.
Yeah.
So once I move forward, nothing is going to keep me from moving forward and having to go backwards. And so once I finished law school, and by the way, while I was in law school, I did an internship with the district attorney's office, the Harris County District Attorney's Office. And and Sylvester Turner, who just recently passed, was recently the mayor of the city of Houston. He was one of my law school professors and
Wow.
a tremendous professor. And so I did my internship in the DA's office, and that's how I learned because I knew I was going to be a criminal defense attorney when I graduated, because I knew I was not going to work for anyone. Because I said, why would you work for someone if you've got the same law degree that they have? Why would you make them money when you can make your own money?
Hmm.
And so once I graduated, since I had the inner workings of what the DA's office, how they operated, I then started my own practice, and now it's been 33 years. And once I became a lawyer, Clark Atlanta was then looking for a police chief during the 1996 Olympics. I had been a lawyer for about 4 years when I got a call from Jackie Barrett, who was the first African American sheriff of Fulton County, Georgia. So I got a call and she said, hey, they're looking for a police chief at Clark Atlanta University. I'm like, well, why would I want to be a police chief? I'm a lawyer already, you know what I mean? And so why would I want to step back into, police work?
Hmm.
So I got an interview, Dr. Thomas Cole, who was the president of Clark Atlanta at that time, and he's deceased now, um, invited me to his office. We talked about the job, and he asked me, he said, well, how much money would it take for you to stop practicing law for 2 years for the contract that I need you to be a police chief? And so here I was thinking, well, if I quote him some outrageous price, he's going to say no, because we're talking about being a police chief. So
Hmm.
I did quote him an outrageous price, and he said, when can you start?
Wow.
And so immediately, I was married at the time. I told my wife, I said, baby, I said, hey, I'm stopping practice for about 2 years because I had only been a lawyer for 4 years. So it wasn't like I was making a lot of money. So this money that he was paying me as a police chief, I have to tell you, it outweighed my early career as
Hmm.
a lawyer. And then I was a police chief for those 2 years, and then went back to practicing law. And then I got appointed a judgeship in the year of 2000 in the city of Greenville, Georgia. The mayor of Greenville, Georgia, Ruby Byrd, saw me down in Greenville and said, I think you should be a judge here. I thought she was just kidding, but it turned out she was not kidding. So she swore me in August of 2020, and I
Get out
spent
of here.
absolutely. So I spent 20 years as a part-time judge. Let me explain my different judgeships. Once you become a judge of any type, you can fill in for other type level judges. So once I became a municipal court judge, I knew I didn't want to stop there. I said, well, I want to be a state court judge, which is the next level. I want to be a superior court judge, which is above that. So here I am. I spent 14 years in the city of Greenville as a part-time judge. But during that time, I became a state court judge because that was a judge named Denise Majette, who was a state court judge in DeKalb County, Georgia. Judge Denise Majette primarily knew civil law. She didn't
Mm-hmm.
know, she had no real experience in criminal law. So
Gotcha.
me knowing criminal law, she would call me occasionally and ask me my opinion on certain rulings she should make. So at that point, she said, well, Jack, I think you should be my part-time criminal judge and fill in for me when I have criminal cases. And lo and
Wow.
behold, that's how I became a state court judge.
Wow.
And then how I became a superior court judge, I got a call one day where a chief judge down in Terrell County, Georgia, way in the country, he called me at my office and said, hey, he didn't even tell me who he was. He just said, hey, my daughter has a traffic ticket. I was wondering, can you help her with it? I said, well, sure. So when he hired me, I noticed the check said, Chief Judge of the Terrell County Circuit. I'm like, whoa, this man is a Superior Court judge. So
Mm.
I said, I said, you don't owe me anything. I said, I'm not taking any money from you. I'm gonna represent your daughter for free.
Wow.
So so at that point, his daughter came to Atlanta. I had no idea that he was coming to Atlanta with her. So I got to meet Chief Judge Joe Bishop. And after I kept the ticket off of his daughter's driving record, we went out in the hallway and he said, if there's ever anything I could do for you, just let me know. I said, well, Judge, it is. I said, I've been a municipal court judge. I've been a state court judge. I'm ready to become a superior court judge. 2 weeks later, I was sworn in as a superior court judge handling felony cases in Terrell County, Georgia. So I did all of that from the year of 2000 to 2020. For 20 straight years, I was a part-time municipal, state, and superior court judge.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden, I got appointed. My last judgeship was with the city of Atlanta as a municipal court judge. And let me tell you how that came to be. Being in the right place and just having your blessings, that means a lot. It really
Yes,
does.
sir. Yes, sir.
And so what happened was that here I was in court defending someone in the city of Atlanta Municipal Court. And Judge Bay, Bey, Judge Bay, she said, hey, Jackie, come up to the bench a minute. She said, we have a part-time vacancy. I said, well, when is the deadline? She said, today at 5 o'clock. And it was already about 11 o'clock. So I said, well, Judge, I'm really not sure. I've been a judge for so long. I don't even know if I really want to do that anymore. But I went home, I filled out the application, and a year later, nobody ever reached out. So I figured, I said, well, I'm sure Mayor Kasim Reed has already appointed someone because Kasim Reed was the mayor at that time. And lo and behold, about a year later, I go to the mailbox and it says, you are now the part-time new municipal court judge in the city of Atlanta. I was totally blown away. But let
Wow.
me tell you how you become a municipal court judge. And this is the part that really, really blew me away. When I filled out the application, the first step is that you have to be interviewed by the Judicial Qualification Commission. And that is a body of people, about 8 to 12 people that you have to interview with all the other judge applicants. I never got my interview. So when they never called me, I said, well, clearly they didn't consider me. So I saw the chairman of the board one day. I said, hey, I said, oh, I'm sorry. First, you get a letter saying that you're being nominated to see the mayor. That's when you know you've made it through the judicial
Okay.
qualification. But I got the letter without ever having an interview. So when I saw the commission chairman, I said, hey, Steve, I said, y'all didn't interview me. I thought, he said, well, Jackie, we felt you were the most qualified person, so we didn't have to interview you. So that's
Mm.
how he said, we know you, so we're good. So that made my day to know that they thought that much of me to not even interview me. So then when I got the letter that said you being nominated to interview with the mayor, as I said, a year later, I still haven't talked to the mayor. And then I get the letter in the mail that says you have been chosen. So I later saw Mayor Kasim Reed at a restaurant called Houston's here. I said, Mayor, I said, man, I never got to meet with you. He said, Jackie, everybody knows you, so you're the best qualified person, so I didn't have to interview
Wow.
you. That's how I got the jobs of all those judgeships.
Wow. 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 consecutively, just running one after the other,
That is
one
correct.
after the other, after the other. And
Municipal, state, and superior.
and I don't want to just say it's reputation, but I would like to believe it's your character because your character carried you through all that, not just because of what people said, but it's what you did and how you
Thank,
carried yourself.
thank you. And then all of a sudden, I got appointed a prosecutor. After I became a
Oh
municipal
wow,
judge in Atlanta. And
wow.
here I was, Solicitor General of Fulton County. His name is Keith Gamage. I mean, I think one of the smartest solicitors in the state of Georgia. They handle misdemeanor cases.
Okay,
And so I get a call from Solicitor Gamage and say, "Hey, I'd like for you to come to my office. I'd like to talk with you." So I get down to his office. He said, "I need a special prosecutor." And obviously, a special prosecutor is somebody that does special things in his office. And so he had never had a special prosecutor the whole time he had been the elected solicitor. He said, "I need someone to train my prosecutors on the law, on how to look at accusations, teach them the law of appeals, teach them how to try cases. Just we need somebody to oversee my young prosecutors." And at the time, I was still a municipal court judge. But the law does not allow you to be a judge and a prosecutor at the same time.
okay.
So once he offered me that position, and I said, "Wait a minute, this is a whole new experience. I've never been a prosecutor before." So I took advantage of it, resigned as a municipal court judge. 2 weeks later, got sworn in as a special prosecutor for the Fulton County Solicitor General's office. And I stayed there for 2 years. And as a result of that, no one else, Georgia has been around for 292 years. I am the only lawyer in 292 years that has ever been a police officer, a police chief, a municipal court judge, state court judge, prosecutor, and superior court judge. There's never been one in 292 years.
And you've held all of those positions consecutively.
That is correct.
And can I say this too as well? No dirt, no smut on your name, nothing illegal, just all hard work.
Absolutely.
No
That
shortcutting, just
no,
doing the work.
it's 4 college degrees and I have 2 law degrees. So that was took a lot of work.
My man, my man. All right. So I gotta go back. Take me back. What did you have an example of of who was a lawyer for you? Was there anyone that you saw that you wanted to copy that inspired you to be a lawyer?
Unfortunately, no, because I didn't know any black lawyers growing up. So I think my thing has been my mother worked in the pharmacy at Grady Hospital here. My mother also worked in the laundry when I was growing up. And I saw my mother being a single mother. I mean, we just didn't have a lot. And I think what motivated me was that I didn't want to live the same type of income that my mother, my grandparents, some of my cousins. I just felt it was more to life than stay on a job for 40 years and then when you retire, you die because that's
Mm.
just what happens. And so I wanted to have my flowers right now. So I've always been a self-motivator to try to reach out and say, I'm going to live a different life than my parents. My father, although he lived in Philadelphia, he was always in my life. He came to my high school graduation, my marriage. He was my best man, my all of the things. Um, but he had a fifth grade education. My mother had, I think, like a sixth grade education.
Okay.
And so I just knew I could not live like that, seeing my family struggle the way they did.
All right. Now, were you the only child or did you have sisters and brothers?
So I have an older brother and an older sister. My sister passed about 5 months ago.
My
Um,
condolences. My
and my
condolences.
brother passed from prostate cancer about 3 years ago.
Well, my condolences to that one as well. Did from those from your siblings, did you end up with nieces and nephews?
Yes, I have one niece from my sister and one nephew from my brother. My niece is about 48 years old, and my nephew is about 40. So we're all pretty tight.
Okay, awesome. So that example that you set, they see it and they know what that is. Do any of them look at you and go, "We following Unc"?
They look at me and they call me their celebrity relative. Because everywhere I go, they see people taking pictures. When I'm in my Rolls Royce or Maybach, people on the expressway filming, and then they'll tag me. Throughout the day, probably 10 to 15 people approach me. And what I love about it is that I give every one of them my full attention because they don't have to approach me. And so when they approach me, they're surprised that I am as humble as I am. And generally they want to take a picture, but they feel like they shouldn't ask. So I'll say, hey, let's get a picture together. And that just blows them away. And then they'll tag me. But it makes my day just to surprise them.
Absolutely. And I think that's awesome that you're able to do that and not only take pictures with people, but what they don't understand is the work that you put in to get to where you are, which is why at the end when you're taking a picture, it's not, no, 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 just not taking a picture because I'm a fly lawyer. I did some really in part of my French or part of my speech. I did some really fly shit to get to this point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
You know,
and I'm sorry, go right
go
ahead.
ahead. No, go right ahead. Go ahead.
I never forget where I came from. That's why I stay so humble. Even though I know my worth and I know my talent, I still look at everybody as being humans with decency and respect. So the same people that lay across from the courthouse homeless, I walk over, I shake their hand, I give them money, I give them food, because that could be any of us. That's the way I look at life.
And it really could be.
Mhm.
Today we could be on top. Tomorrow we could be at the bottom.
Absolutely.
It can happen to anyone at any given time. Talk to
And
me about that, about giving back. Do you have any type of initiative or youth program or any 501c?
what I enjoy doing is being with the people. I enjoy giving as I approach or people come in contact with me daily, whether it's somebody who's in a wheelchair where we're taking pictures or I'm holding them. It's just something about me being able to be close to the people
Mhm.
and to make somebody smile because it makes me smile when I see them smile. That's what I give back. I try to give a warm heart to everyone.
Awesome. Awesome. I love to hear it. I love to hear it. Now, going back to all the positions that you held, is there one particular job or one part of your career that you would love to go back to or stay at?
You know, I've enjoyed the positions that I had, but it's nothing like being a criminal defense attorney
Gotcha.
because as a criminal defense attorney, you make sure the prosecutor plays fair. You make sure that the judge is fair because you're the buffer between the heavy hand of the state
Hmm.
and that helpless defendant. My job is to make sure whether he's convicted or not, is to make sure that he gets a fair trial under the Constitution of the U.S. and the Constitution of the state of Georgia. That's what I enjoy the most. When I served as a judge, what was exciting about that is because you pretty much ran the whole courtroom. You pretty much keep both parties in check because you're a referee. That's your job as a judge. And as a prosecutor, my job was to look after the victims, to make sure victims had a voice, to make sure that the perpetrator of those crimes were punished, but in a very just way.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Speaking on that, for us as the regular citizens, the civilians that live a regular everyday life, what can we do to help make sure that the law is enforced and held correctly? Is there anything that we could do specifically?
Well, in my experience has been, I see so much police brutality. I see so many of our people just being manhandled by the
Hmm.
police. And there's a way to avoid that. It absolutely is a way to avoid that. And unfortunately, I hate to say it, it's most of our people that find themselves in that precarious situation. And the reason being is because when you get stopped by the police, the worst thing you can do is argue with the police because you will never win on the street. That is not the courtroom. That is the streets. And so when a police officer says, let me see your driver's license, and you start saying, well, tell me why you stopped me. I'm not giving you my, you're going straight downhill from there because he has a badge and he has a gun and he has arrest powers. And he can show you, he or she can show you on the spot that you don't control what happens on the spot at that moment. So I tell all my people, all the citizens, that is not the time to argue. You need to say, "Here's my driver's license. Why did you stop me? Here's my driver's license. Get your ticket and keep it moving." But when you start getting combative, that causes people get beat up by the police. It caused people being shot by the police,
Hmm.
people being killed by the police, when it could have been avoided if you had simply cooperated. Because when you get a ticket, or even if you get arrested for DUI or drugs or whatever it may be, all you have to do is hire a lawyer and go fight in court. that's the time that you fight, not on the street. So as much as we do have police officers that wake up every day to brutalize people, I still believe the majority of police officers are law-abiding, good people out to serve and protect the community. You do have a few in every profession that's going to make the profession look bad. We've got bad lawyers, we've got bad doctors, we've got bad judges. So every profession has bad apples. But it is important that the public know it is not the time to fight or argue on the street.
I agree with that. And one of the things I tell people from time to time is when the cop pulls you over, he is in control of the situation at that point in time once he pulls you over. But the other thing to always remember is this. I pulled you over. You don't know what type of day I'm having. I don't know what type of day you having. Man, talk to me like you got some sense and you can make this thing just go away.
Correct. You
I could have
absolutely,
I could have had three people that was assholes before you were. Or I could have had one that was just so forceful that it's already burning me, and I just might have an attitude, and I may be looking to take it out on you.
that's
Or
correct.
I'm just looking for you to treat me with the same respect as you treat anybody else. And then when I
Absolutely.
get up to you and you roll that window down and you start acting a fool, I gotta act a fool now.
That's correct. Because a police officer is not going to let you take control of the situation. I don't care how you look at it.
They're not supposed to.
Correct.
They're not supposed to. All right, another question that I have for you. The school to prison pipeline. Do you believe that that is something that truly exists?
I believe that, and it doesn't matter what your race is. Let me first of all, it doesn't matter if you're black, white, Mexican, Hispanic. You, there are times, as you know, that there are times that police officers can plant drugs on. Even you got crooked police officers. Certainly, there's some out there,
Hmm.
but the majority of the people that are in prison, they in some way put themselves in that situation. Nobody can force you to sell drugs. No
Very
one,
true.
no one can force you to do that. No one can force you to go rob somebody. No one can force you to commit an aggravated assault. So that doesn't mean that everybody gets a fair trial when they get to court, but it starts out by putting yourself in certain situations. So if our people or the people, these citizens would just say, hey, you gotta think you can make one split decision and it ruined the rest of your life. So although the school to prison pipeline is there, I still believe, even as a defense attorney, as many people as I defend, most times people get arrested by putting themselves in certain situations with certain company. That's just the way it works in most
Okay.
cases.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Next question. Expungement.
Mhm.
Do you
Yes,
believe expungement is a way to help brothers get their lives back on track?
let me tell you, in my career, I think I've probably done 200 expungements because every expungement, well, in Georgia now we call it record restriction.
Okay.
Uh, we used to call it expungement. Now it's record restriction. That has been, and I have to credit Governor Nathan Deal, former Governor Nathan Deal, who was the biggest criminal justice reform governor we've ever had, and also Governor Roy Barnes. Those two governors created laws that say we need to give convicted felons a second chance. And the way this law works is this. Let's say you were convicted of possession of marijuana with intent to distribute 40 years ago.
Okay.
And that's the only felony on your record. And you've been restricted from getting housing, jobs, and all of that. Now you can come to me. I will pull that record of yours, file what's called a retroactive. It's called a petition for retroactive first offender. I take you to court within 60 days. The prosecutor is there. The judge sees that you have no other felonies on your record because it's designed for people who only has one felony on their record. Then the judge will say, I hereby grant this first offender restriction. And then not only is your record sealed within 48 hours, but you're no longer a convicted felon. So
Wow.
when jobs run your background, it's no longer there. That is the
Wow.
greatest thing that has happened in the criminal justice system.
Good, good. Because there are a lot of brothers who are coming home or who have been home for a while and they're trying to clean themselves up. They're trying to get their lives back on track, but it's very, very
Absolutely.
hard for them to do when you see those felonies popping up or those charges that, have been standing on they've been sitting on their record for a long time. I know a person who said they had a couple of parking tickets that turned into something else, and they didn't get an expungement, but that's the one thing that had been kept keeping them back and everything. But it's good to
Absolutely.
know that their expungement does help.
Makes a huge, huge difference.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we need more brothers out here who can get into the workforce or who can work the independent jobs that you're trying to do, with whether they're opening up business where they're what is it called? They would have brick and mortar business where they're selling their own T-shirts and
That is correct.
everything, and they're trying to be law-abiding citizens and everything, or down to the guys that are bricklaying and doing carpentry and everything like that. I want to see those brothers succeed and be able to go on and live healthy, fruitful lives for as long as they can.
Every record restriction that I've done, you should have seen the look on their face when I gave them that paperwork and told them after 30 years they're no longer a convicted felon.
Mm,
That's a very warm feeling to get as a defense attorney.
wow. And to wait for 30 years to have that, man.
Mhm.
Wow. All that time sitting around just trying to figure out what to do with their life.
Absolutely.
Or worried about that being a hindrance on their life. You know, that
Absolutely.
sucks. All right. So here's something that may be big that you may be able to talk about and not be able to talk about. Is it possible, my man, to get some of these laws changed for these brothers who are dealing with wives or baby mothers and child support, sir? Because some of these guys are doing the work. They're getting, they're going to work 50, 60 hours a week, man, and they're the ones taking the beating in a criminal law, and not in the criminal law, in the law system. Is it possible to do something to change some of these laws?
You know, that's called family law, child custody, child support, family law. I have no experience in that because my whole 33 years has been criminal and car wrecks.
Gotcha,
But
gotcha.
but they would need to get with their state representative, and that's how the laws are changed by getting with their state representative so their representative can lobby, for different laws to help males and females, depending on your situation.
Okay. All right. So you don't know anything. So some of the questions I don't have any kids, but I just wanted to ask because I hear about guys who do a great job of taking care of their kids, um, and the mother isn't doing much to help, and the mother's still being rewarded the money, and they're still dishing out all this money to take care of children that they want to be with and have in their lives, and they would actually like to have the kids stay with them, but the mother is being more of a hindrance than anything.
They would definitely need to contact a family lawyer so they can try to potentially petition for custody or something like that. But that's a family law attorney.
Gotcha, gotcha. All right. So the fly part. We got to get into the fly part. Have you always been fly, my brother?
Well, let me tell you how that came to be. I've always been a a well-dressed man. Let me put it that way.
All right, all right. Talk about it.
I mean, even as a police officer, I got awards for being the best dressed uniform as a police officer. When I was in the Army, I got an award for being the best dressed soldier because everything was always crisp and pressed. And so once I became a lawyer, certainly I continued that well dressing, but I decided that I need to do something that no other lawyer has ever done. And as I continued to grow as a lawyer, I found myself you create a little bit more wealth and things like that. So you're able to buy more, you're able to dress better with, custom clothes. All of my clothes are made by Miguel Wilson Collection here at Phipps Plaza in Atlanta. And so the way that came to be is that I remember one day about 6 years ago, I said, I need to come up with a slogan that nobody else has. And so at the time I drove a Bentley. So I said, why don't you call yourself the Bentley lawyer? So because I drove a convertible Bentley. So I changed my billboards to the Bentley lawyer. I put the Bentley car on the billboard. I always wore Keith and James and, hats and things like that. But the trademark or the slogan was the Bentley lawyer. So for about 2.5 years, everybody knew me as the Bentley lawyer. And all of a sudden, one day I got a cease and desist letter
Really?
from Bentley
From
headquarters.
Bentley? Okay,
That's
gotcha,
correct.
gotcha,
And
gotcha.
so when I got the letter, I'm like, what the, right? And so the letter said, you are to take our emblem off of your billboard, off of your business cards immediately. Now,
Wow.
I was livid because I had been the Bentley lawyer for almost 3 years. And so, but I knew I had to switch it up. So as mad as I was, and I'm the type when I make a decision, I move on it right away. I don't
Hmm.
hesitate because I know it's a decision I'm going to move on. So I got home. I stayed up till like 3 in the morning. I was fuming. I mean, I was absolutely fuming. I said, okay, Jackie, let's do this. So what can you come up with? A name that no one could ever take from you. I said that you can sue somebody if they use your name. So I said, well, let me think. I said, well, I got rid of the Bentley, by the way, because I was that mad. I got rid of the Bentley.
Ooh, I don't
I
blame
didn't
you.
I didn't even want to drive a Bentley anymore. So I went and bought a Maybach and a Rolls Royce.
Okay.
And so I laid in bed. I said, well, you got a Rolls Royce, you got a Maybach, you've got 250 pairs of red bottoms, because all I wear is red bottoms. I said, you've got 250 pairs of those. You wear Keith and James, you're the ambassador for, you wear Maybach glasses. You got the Rolex, you got the Hermes. I said, you really fly. The next morning, I went and trademarked the Fly Lawyer.
There you go.
And then it went straight up. And no, never would I be in this position today if I was still the Bentley lawyer.
You would
Because
not.
that's correct. So I took that adversity and turned it into a triumph. And
My
now
man. I love it. I love it. I
and
love
now
it.
the Fly Lawyer is trademarked. Nobody in America can call themselves the Fly Lawyer. And I tell everybody there's only one Fly Lawyer on the whole planet, and you're looking at him.
And I got him on my podcast. Yeah.
And then my music came into being.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about that then. How long
Yes,
have you been doing the music?
a little over 3.5 years now.
All right.
I'm on my 10th song.
Okay.
And let me tell you how that came to be. A rapper by the name of Stunner. His brother was in trouble with the law and he was facing 8 years in prison with the lawyer that he had at the time.
Mm.
So somebody referred Stunner to me. I got with his brother. And not only did I get all of his felonies dismissed, but I got him 6 months in the county jail on misdemeanors. And then with good behavior, he served only 3 months.
Oh,
So
come on, man. Stop it.
not only
Stop it.
Absolutely. Not only did his felonies go away, but he got misdemeanor county time. So I told Stone, I said, hey, man, you owe me a song for keeping your brother out of prison. So
You owe me an album, buddy.
that's right. So about 2 weeks later, believe it or not, he texted me at 3 in the morning with a song called Win for You.
Mm.
So when I heard it, it was the greatest lyrics I had ever heard. And it fit me. It talked about all I do is win, win, win.
Mm.
It was called Win for You. So that one lasted. I marketed that song for about 4 or 5 months, and I said, Stunner, I need another song. And all of a sudden, we came up with Keep You Out That Sale. Turned out to be a major hit. That song went viral. I got about, I want to say it was something like 9 million views.
Awesome.
Because I went to court one day, got two young men out of jail within an hour and a half of me showing up. And when I came out, their families was outside. I had my Rolls Royce with the top back, and then I put on my song, Keep You Out That Sale. So they videoed me singing my song because they knew that if I was singing my song, they got out of jail. And little did I know, 3 days later, it was up to 1 million. And it ended up, it's probably at 10 million now, but it was 8 million about 4 months ago. So
Beautiful.
that
Beautiful.
went viral. And that's how the Fly Lawyer just continued to grow. And then the next song, I'm on my 10th song. So every 3 months now, we do a new song. So we collaborate on the lyrics. Stunner does all the singing, but I consider myself a performer. So when we make the song and then I learn the lyrics, I perform them in public.
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
so we have Win for You, Keep You Out That Sale. We have Maybach and Rolls Royce based upon the cars that I drive. We have You Classy and Fly. We we have, oh my God, we've got so many now. The latest one is called Fly Seduction, and it talks about when you get this fly seduction, there's just no going back. So if you put the Fly Lawyer in your music platform, you get all of my music. And I've got a new one coming out next week. Since I've been had all these positions in the criminal justice system, I made something called the Fly Lawyer Anthem, and it's a tribute to the police, judges, prosecutors, and defense attorneys. That comes out on September 6th, in a few
Oh
days.
wow. Oh
So
wow.
I did a national anthem for the criminal justice system. And my best friend is always has been my ex-wife. And so I also made a song for her. That's going to be coming out on September 30th on my daughter's birthday. And it's called Forever Grateful to Yasma. And let me tell you why that song is coming out. We were married for 8 years. We've been divorced now about 24 years. My kids were 3 and 6 when we divorced, and
Mm.
now 30 and 27. But my ex-wife has always been my best friend. And
Wow.
unfortunately, I did the unthinkable. I cheated on her, so that's why she divorced me, of course,
Mm.
but never lost her love for me. So for all these years, she's been my rock, she's been my solid, she's been my peace. I have never made a single major decision without consulting her in all of these years. When
Wow.
I when I had COVID, I lived with her for 6 months. She took care of me for 6 months. I couldn't do anything for myself in March of 2020, all the way till around September.
Mm.
I was at work the whole time. When she picked me up from the hospital, she took me straight to her house and she nursed me back to health. And even since that time and before that time, she's always had my back. So the song that I have that's coming out for her September 30th is called Forever Grateful to Yasmin. It talks about our kids. It talks about when I was down and out with COVID, you nursed me back to health. So, for an example, every Mother's Day, I do a big tribute to her on my social media. Last year, this past May, I gave her $10,000 in cash.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, on my so she just means the world to me. The year before that, I gave her a matching Fly Lawyer chain.
Okay.
So I'm always, if even if I got married again, my ex-wife will be at my wedding. She has to be a good friend to my new wife. Otherwise, I don't think I'll get married.
So when you get her a change, do you get one that says the fly friend? What did you do? How you
No,
set
it
it
says
up?
no. You mean my ex-wife?
Yeah.
No, no, it says the Fly Lawyer. No, she,
Okay. All right.
when delivery people come to her house, right? She's got the chain on, and they say, "Wait a minute, do you know the Fly Lawyer?" She'll say, "Well, that's my ex-husband," and then
Mm-hmm.
they're like, "Oh my God, I follow him on social media." So no, she wears her chain everywhere.
Awesome. 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 Man, it's good to have awesome women as friends and as wives, man. I always tell the young men that I do mentor that is we all want to be out here doing what we're doing and having fun, making money and being around women and being around the best type of women that we could be around. But get you a couple of women that are good friends, man.
Correct.
Get
I
you a
mean,
couple of women. You don't have to have sex with them all, but get you a
you
couple
got
of women that are just really good friends.
that's got your back. I've got a few.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been divorced 24 years. I've got some friends over 20 years that we're simply platonic, but if I need anything or if they need anything, we're there.
Yes, sir. And I have two or three that are just the same way, man. If I really need them to come support me, they would show up. Matter of fact, they get on me now for not asking them to for help and everything like that because I'm so used to doing everything as a man and doing it on my own or looking asking one of my guys to do it and they're like, really, I know how to help you do that. Just let me help, you know?
Absolutely. Just like about 5 months ago, for the first time in my life, I got diagnosed with hypertension. And when my female friends and my ex-wife found out about it, every day they're checking on me. Have you checked your blood pressure?
Hmm.
Are you drinking this? Are you doing that? And that's a good feeling to know that people care about you.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's also great to it's always great to have the correct people in your circle, and you know who they are by the vibration, the energy that you share, and the way that they compliment you and where you are in that particular part of your life. All right,
Absolutely.
getting back to this flyness, because you say you have all your clothes tailor made. How long
Mhm.
have your clothes been tailor made for you?
I met Miguel Wilson 5 years ago. So all of my clothes come from Miguel Wilson collection. He's an African American designer, been in the business 30 years, and he is absolutely fantastic. His office is shop is in Phipps Plaza right here in Atlanta. All you got to do is Google Miguel Wilson collection and tell him the Fly Lawyer sent you.
Gotcha. All right, and
Mhm.
on the next thing I wanted to ask you was, did you ever think about getting into federal work?
No, never. No. Let me make sure the answer is an absolute no. And let me tell you why.
Come on, talk about. You gotta tell me why now.
I had been a lawyer about a year and a half, and I picked up a federal case because, hey, I'm a new lawyer. I can do it all.
Hmm.
So, and it was a counterfeiting case. A guy was charged with counterfeit bills. I went to federal court when I saw the sentencing guidelines. The book is about this thick. And when you do a plea on in federal court, it'll say if the person has a college degree, you get 4 points. If a person has a misdemeanor traffic ticket, you get three, you subtract 3 points. Then it'll say go to page 959 and it takes you to about 95 different sections before you can determine what somebody's sentence is. That's called
Wow.
federal sentencing guidelines. And when I saw that, let me tell you what, I'm an honest lawyer now. I pulled the probation officer to the side. I said, my guy, look, I said, I need your help. This is what I said, look, I said, my client, this is my first federal case. I said, I am lost. I said, if you help me figure out my client's sentencing, I said, you will never see me in federal court again. That's exactly what I told him. So he laughed. He said, man, so he helped me get through it, went before the judge. And then when the judge sentenced my client, I said, well, Your Honor, I said, it's been a pleasure being before you, and I really appreciate the probation officer. I said, but Your Honor, federal law is not for me. I said, you will never see me before this court again. And I've never been back.
Wow. And how long ago was that?
30, 31 years.
Woo, and you were serious. Man, I like it. I like your style, man, because one of the things that I really love is that once you move forward from something, you don't go back.
Correct.
In the way that I was raised as a young man from guys in the streets or guys in the church or everything, they always said, once you are done with something, you leave it alone.
That's correct.
You
I
leave it
never
alone.
look back. I just don't know what looking back is.
Mm-mm.
Right.
Mm-mm. Because there's nothing back there. If it was good for you, it would maintain its durability with you and its integrity and dignity with you as you move forward. But once you say I'm done with that, that's it. There's no going back to nothing like that.
Absolutely. And I
My
think that's
man.
that's called having peace.
Hmm.
Uh, Miguel Wilson, my clothing designer, wrote a book, and it's called Peace Over Everything. And so once you find your peace in life, if anything interrupts that peace, it costs too much.
Ooh, come on, you talking now. You talking my talk. You talking my talk. You gonna get me jumping around here and shouting and everything.
Absolutely.
All right, so I want to get you out of here because I know you got other things to get to, even if it is just having some peace and a nice drink at home. Is there any inspirational message that you would like to leave before we get off here?
Yes. There's a couple of things I want to tell single guys, and then there's a couple of things I want to tell everyone. My dad told me when I was about 13 years old, he says, son, if you ever want a peaceful relationship with a woman, there's something you must never do to her, and that is you must never stress her.
Mm.
I tell every woman that knows me knows that I do not bring stress, and therefore they gravitate towards you. If you make a woman smile, make her laugh, be her friend, make her feel comfortable, have her back. The key is that you cannot stress a woman. A woman will give you everything you ever want as long as she knows that you're stress free.
All right. All
The,
right.
the, the second part is this. The reason why I've always been a hustler and never looked back and always moving forward. When I was in the seventh grade, my dad told me, he said, son, the only thing that comes to a sleeper is a dream. So I keep it moving.
Yes, sir.
Dreams are made to dream. If you don't go out and get it, it's going to remain a dream.
That's all it ever is. And then
Right.
alongside that, I would like to say that someone told me that the richest place in the world is a cemetery because most people went to the grave and they left it all on the table. They didn't do anything with it. They left it
Correct.
all in their pockets. They didn't put it, they didn't let it all out to the world. They didn't leave the world empty. They didn't give up everything that they had to their dreams or whatever it is that they were pursuing.
Absolutely. My
Yes,
God,
sir.
I have enjoyed you so much tonight. This podcast has been absolutely amazing, and I
You
really
don't know how much this mean to me. You really don't. You don't. Go ahead, keep talking, but
I,
you don't know what
I, I
this mean to me.
I mean, your questions have been on point. I didn't know what you were going to ask me tonight, but I knew it would be informative.
Hmm.
And I think this has been one of the. I've done several podcasts. This one has had so much meaning. I'm going to remember it for quite some time.
Oh man, you have no idea. This brings me so much joy. Being able to do this inspires me to keep on going forward because I know I'm in the right place.
Absolutely,
I know I'm in the
absolutely.
right place.
And I think you've got a great platform.
I appreciate that. Is there anything that you need to plug, a book or a website or anything before we get off here?
Sure. My Instagram is The Fly Lawyer. My website is theflylawyer.com. My music platform is The Fly Lawyer. So if you just always remember The Fly Lawyer, you'll be able to reach me.
Yes, sir. All right. So with that said, remember the mission statement when you striving for greatness. God never put you in the driver's seat if it's taken. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today was Jackie Patterson, the fly lawyer. Brother, I appreciate you and your time and your energy so much. Thank you for being a guest on my podcast.
Thank you, my guy. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Have a good one.
You too.